are crucial elements of success. I would like to introduce Jacob Højmark. Jacob Højmark Nielsen has 20 years of experience in the PKI industry and the last 18 years as a co-founder and the CEO of Trust Zone, which is a Danish IT security company focusing on the commercial aspects of PKI and digital certificates. The mission is to make PKI feasible, understandable, and tangible for a broad audience, and thus communicating and catering the technology and principles of it in a stakeholder point of view. Thank you, and over to you, Jacob. You can share your screen. You can unmute yourself and you can turn on your camera also.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear you.
Okay. So just 1 second, I'll share my screen in a minute. Good afternoon, everyone.
But we are not able to see your video.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now you should be able to see me.
1 second. Yes, we are able to see. Yeah.
So for the third time, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to have the opportunity to have this short speech today with you. I'm going to share my screen. Well, thank you so much for having me. As I said before, it's a great honor and a great pleasure to have this short talk about why the PKI consolidation and the certificate ownership are crucial elements of success. So the agenda for today, it will be a very short introduction, and I believe it has actually already been done. But who am I? And just a little about Jacob at a glance. Or a short stroll down memory lane, talking about the past, the present situation, and something about the future as well. And lastly, I believe that there would be a possibility to come up with a few questions if you have any. So moving on to who I am, I believe it has already been said. 20 years of experience in the PKI industry.
Sorry, I guess. Actually we are not able to see the slides moving. So I think you may have to put on slideshow mode, in the presentation slideshow mode, and then again reshare it. Yes. Okay, this also is fine. Yeah, you can try.
I stopped it now.
Can you try clicking on slideshow in the...
Yeah, for some reason, it's not really being displayed in the way that it is on my screen, I see.
Okay. Okay. I think you have to keep moving on the slides. Right now we are able to see, we are on the slide number 3, who am I? That's where we are able to see that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, I am too, but I can see that you have a bit of a different view, it seems like. Let's try to see if it works out. Yeah, so 20 years of experience in the PKI industry. I guess that makes me kind of a dinosaur in this rather young industry, as it was said in the introduction as well. For the past 18 years, I have been the CEO of Trust Zone, which I co-founded with my business partner in 2004. If I'm supposed to, highlight one quality in myself, it should probably be that the commercial know-how that I have combined with the technical flair. That basically means that I am certainly not the technical expert, but at the end of the day, I do think that if my mission is connecting the dots between advanced technology and real people, it's an absolutely crucial quality to have, actually. Well, I can see the slides are not going at all. Still.
Now we are in slide number 5.
Yes, I will. I will do it like this.
Yes, now we are in slide number 4. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes. Okay, so just a little about the past, short stroll down memory lane. As most of you probably know, the PKI was invented in 1976, and seen from a commercial point of view, I would say that from 76 to 95, not a lot happened, actually. That doesn't mean that there was not a technological development going on, but from a commercial point of view, it was, well, not really a lot of interesting news. So in 95, the SSL version 2.0 was released, which opened up for the possibility of actually issuing publicly trusted certificates. The first one was issued just around 95, 96. And on top of that, in 98, the first version of the Microsoft CA was released with the Windows NT4 option pack. For those of you who are old enough to remember that, because that is certainly a long time ago. The years after this, I would say that the PKI in general was still in a very immature stage. I think the broad perception of PKI was basically that PKI would equal SSL certificates. So basically, that was the one part of the entire PKI framework that you would actually have any commercial value of. In 2005, the CAP forum was established, and that, of course, paved the way also for a lot of the things that we see going on today. As you probably know, they are regulating a lot of things, and they are trying to keep up the pace with all the things that are happening in the industry. And another thing, in 2015, Let's Encrypt is born, as all of you probably know. And I would say that this was, if I was to say something, one vital thing that has happened in the past 10 years, it should certainly be the birth of Let's Encrypt, who has significantly changed the market for digital certificates from a commercial point of view again. So from 15 and onwards, I believe that we have seen a liftoff in an ever-growing market for digital certificates. It has certainly become much more tangible also, even though that we are not there yet. I do believe that we are looking into a much more mature market now than when I entered back in 2002. So that leads us up to the present. I will start out with the good. So from a PKI point of view, there is certainly a lot of good things to say. One of them would obviously be the explosive growth that we see in the digital world today. So, I mean, the first time I heard about IoT, for instance, was many years ago. But fast forward to today, where it is actually materializing what back then was a quite fluffy concept. That leaves us with a great potential and estimated 29 billion connected devices as per today, which of these 18 billion would be IoT devices. And obviously the identities and the tracking of these devices open up a lot of possibilities if we're looking at it from a PKI point of view. Another thing driving the industry in the right direction would be the route towards short or shorter lift certificates. This will, of course, eventually mean that we will have many more certificates as we have been used to. For quite a few years now, this has been talk of the town in the industry, also from a commercial perspective, and what it will actually take from a technical point of view as well. So it's really hard to say what it should say on X's place here, but for certain, I think it will be fair to say that it will multiply the market by maybe a huge number. Yes, so that leaves the industry in a state where you would be, I think you would be right to say that it is now very close to being mature, if not mature right now. And the drivers influencing the PKI industry seems to be on a very heavy uptake, and I see no indications really that this will not be what we are looking into in the future as well. So yeah, to sum it up in this one, I do think that we have great opportunities when we are looking at the market from a PKI point of view. Moving on to the bad part. So obviously there are still a lot of challenges. There are a lot of things that we still need to address, to solve in order to really succeed with the PKI. First of all, I would really like to highlight the lack of clear ownership and consolidation. What we have seen several times, and in almost all cases, basically, is that organizations struggle to actually anchor the responsibility, and that leads to what we call the silo fallacy and a lot of failed projects. This basically means that you would have a wish of actually moving in the right direction and actually implementing PKI in your organization, but seeing that you have no true responsibility, you have no true anchor in these cases, it will often lead to having projects that are run by departments and not the entire organization, which eventually almost always will fail unless this is something that you have actually counted in to your strategy. Another thing would be the competency mandate, the gap. So as it says here, the experts don't have the mandate and the mandates don't have the expertise. This clearly means that we have a lot of skilled people, and more are joining each and every day. The problem is that these PKI experts would rarely have anything to say when it comes to a strategic decision. That leaves us in a position where the experts might have the expertise but no mandate. And as it says here, the the mandates clearly don't really have the expertise to look at PKI in a more holistic point of view. So you have clearly a gap here that needs to be closed before you would actually be able to succeed with a successful PKI strategy. And lastly, we have a few things that all along the way have blurred the lines, distractions, and things that will take away the focus of actually succeeding with PKI. I think one of the best recent examples we've seen is clearly all the focus that went on blockchain. And I'm not going into any religious discussions about blockchain versus PKI, anything like that. I am merely saying that the blockchain rocket took a lot of attention from the market in general, attention that would be turned into blockchain and thus defocusing on PKI. That has certainly also slowed down the PKI industry in general. And thus it has not been one of the good things for PKI. Also, I believe that the industry in general has blind spots. That also means that when new possibility arises, the industry is not always doing a very good job in tapping into these potential opportunities, whether that's IAM, zero trust, or one of the other things that could easily be combined with a discussion around PKI. I think that there is certainly room for improvement here in terms of actually unfolding the potential of PKI in general when these things happen. And lastly, what I'm going to address here is also the communication from the industry in general. For many years, as long as I can remember at least, the communication with the market or potential market from the industry has not always been leveled and performed in the right way. So this means basically that you would have technically complex messages that you would also deliver in a very technical, complex way, which at the end of the day is how it is. But if you are supposed to drive growth in a market, it's just extremely important that you're able to communicate with whoever is at the end of the day going to pay for one of your solutions or going to opt in on one of your solution. So from a commercial perspective, I do think that the communication in the market has been it has probably been miscarried out in general. I think would be the right way to put it. Still looking at the present, there are questions to address here. There are questions to be answered if we are striving to be successful with our PKI integrations. So again, from a PKI point of view, I think going back 5, 6, 7 years maybe, I do think that the toolbox in general was lacking quality. That has changed so much to the better now, I believe. But yeah, 5 or 6, 7 years ago, there was maybe not the right products to facilitate um, a PKI strategy that to some extent would also include scaling up as one of the important parts of the strategy. So as per today, I think what is very important is, of course, to have infrastructure transparency. That is actually something that seems to be quite hard for a lot of organizations to gain. In general, we do see that the internal lines are quite blurred. You don't have the complete overview, and obviously it leads a bit back to, if you haven't consolidated your PKI as a strategy, I guess that you're back to the question again. Well, if it's going to live on a department basis, you can't really get that full infrastructure transparency, which is just very vital if you are planning to do an ambitious and value-based PKI strategy. Another thing, also seeing that the uptake of digital certificates in general have been exploding, and then probably will still increase also in the future. The need for an automated certificate lifecycle management system is just getting more and more clear each and every day. So I think as per today, as we see it, in general, everybody will be talking about this. Not all us are ready to go to the action phase, but at the end of the day, most people do realize that they do need to address this question, which then leads to the decision part again. And as you can see in this slide, I've written that so far, I believe that this has been a bottom-up decision, unfortunately, so driven by someone who would have the expertise but not the mandate, which again, in many cases, as we've seen, would lead to not really going anywhere. So instead, as far as I can see, if we manage to flip it around and actually pivot this to a top-down instead, my best guess would be that you would have a much better chance of actually succeeding with a successful PKI strategy. So realizing that you need to take this decision from the basement and to the corner office is something that could certainly be a very important factor for succeeding with your PKI strategy. And the potential, I do think that I mentioned a little about it on the previous slide also, but actually realizing the full potential of a holistic PKI strategy. I mean, to my best knowledge, I do think that a lot of the decision makers today, which are not experts, of course, will not really see the full potential of a PKI strategy, as they do not really have the technical competencies necessarily. So I think that unfolding and tapping into that potential is something that could be very helpful, so to drive the right decisions and thus driving the strategy in the right direction. But in order to make this feasible and also make it tangible and reachable, I think that there is a need to do a step-by-step approach to actually succeed with the holistic PKI strategy. So in order to actually get this going and trying to break it down, I do realize that we are still very high level. Here are 3 P's to master at least. So the people involved in your PKI strategy will certainly be extremely important. So I have written here that combining the expertise and the mandate will be absolutely crucial. I mean, in the perfect world, you will probably have this in one and the same person. In the real world, that's probably not really doable. I mean, that will make a PKI superhero, and as far as I know, that really doesn't exist. So I would suggest that the people here would be a small group of people combining expertise and the mandate, and actually being able to form the right strategy. The processes, of course, will be important. So when you have the strategy in place, I mean, you will start up a lot of processes probably. So defining and delegating and communicating these processes will be key to also be successful. I mean, what we have seen so far in recent years is that you might have an idea where you want to go, but you have no idea where to get there. And that is where the processes actually kicks in. And lastly, the products to support your strategy will also be important. As I mentioned before, this is not really a concern to me as per today. It is still very important, and it is very important to choose the right one. Of course, we will suggest that you would consider the agility wanted, the scalability that you need, and obviously the robustness and the quality of the products and systems that you will choose, of course. What could confuse decision makers, maybe the market in general, as per today, is that most people can, read the statistics, and they can see that in the IT security industry in general, there are billions of dollars going in, and that amount is just increasing year over year. That also means, of course, that you will have products of a certain quality, but you will also have products now, seeing that the market is so attractive, that would be in a state where you would actually not be able to achieve and be successful with your PKI strategy. So depending on what you would like to achieve here, find the right system to actually facilitate and support your PKI strategy. So moving on to the future, we have tried to break it down in 2 absolute essentials in terms of how to succeed. So number 1 would be the consolidation. It is going to be absolutely crucial to make your PKI strategy an organizational priority and not a department project. That is probably the biggest and the most common failure that we have seen in the recent years, is that you would actually like to go somewhere, you would actually like to take your PKI strategy somewhere, but at the end of the day, you treat your PKI strategy as a department project. So you would isolate it in 1, maybe 2 departments, which at the end of the day will be would be not working in the right direction in terms of actually making this a success in your organization. You might be able to succeed in that one or two departments, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will manage to roll it out in the entire organization. So get the strategy in place first and make it an organization priority. That is absolutely crucial if you would have the chance to succeed. Number two is also the certificate ownership. I think I said that before as well. Seeing that certificates or the market for digital certificates has been exploding for many, many years now, and will probably do also in the future. We see that there are no really or no real transparency in terms of certificate ownership, and on a low level basis that is becoming an increasing problem, whether it's internal and external certificates, because it's just a very messy picture we see in general, and it is something that is being owned, or the responsibility is being owned by departments and not the organization. And I think it's quite common human nature, really, that if you have already a busy day, you tend to focus on, well, your own things, your own priority list, your own tasks, and so on, which eventually will defocus the organizational picture. So what happens is that you will focus on the certificates that you have in your department, and seeing that certificates are not being anchored anywhere in the organization. Well, you're just focusing on what's on your plate, and that will eventually leave you in a very bad state if you want to succeed with PKI strategy in general, because you will have 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 departments that will be their own king of the castle, according to the responsibilities for their department, but not any organizational responsibility at all. So I've tried to break it down in 7 hopefully feasible steps, and thus creating a recipe for success in terms of succeeding with your PKI. So number one would obviously be to define your PKI strategy and mandate at the highest level possible. I mean, if you go high enough in the organization, I think decision making would hopefully be much easier. And if you manage to put together a group where you also have the technical expertise represented, I think you are off to a very good start, and in a very good state in terms of actually succeeding. So that's going to be your number one. Your number two will be appointing all stakeholders as early as possible, of course. It is very important that everyone will be looped into this strategy at a very early stage. Partly because, of course, it will hopefully create a much stronger feeling of ownership of the strategy, but also to have the input from different departments in terms of the stakeholders represented. After that, it will be essential to communicate the PKI strategy across all departments. So also, again, including all departments that will be involved in your PKI strategy, of course. So you, at the end of the day, will have complete transparency in where you're heading and how to get there. After that, in number 4, you would need to create a crystal clear, feasible, and tangible plan for actually succeeding with your PKI strategy. So breaking it down as much as possible, granulating as much as possible, putting teams together, delegating responsibilities, and aligning expectations would be absolutely crucial. We have looked into and looked over a lot of plans that at the end of the day was not feasible, not very clear, and certainly not tangible. And I can just say that you are you are almost doomed to fail if you cannot communicate and create a plan that everybody actually understands in terms of responsibility, who does what and when, and so on and so forth. After the plan has been drafted, you would need a buy-in from all stakeholders before laminating the plan. So get that important nut from all key stakeholders in your PKI strategy. It's very important that none of them are hesitating. None of them might not really believe in the strategy, and thus not having the correct buy-in in terms of actually succeeding with the plan. So do that before laminating the plan. If there need to be done any minor tweaks, a bit of detail changes and so on, that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, hopefully the essential parts of the plan would be accepted and thus a full buy-in, but leave room for just very small minor iterations. Yeah, after that, I guess it's all about go action and go do what you have planned. It seems so easy when you just look at it in a slide, but this is where the true work of the craftsman begins, of course. So obviously this bullet is very important too, but I would say that if you are not tight and clear with the first 5 bullets, you're doomed to fail with the bullet number 6 here. So, I mean, the action will reflect how good you have been on the first 5 ones with your PKI strategy. So all the work that needs to be done before moving on to the action part is absolutely crucial for how well you would do with bullet number 6. Yeah, and lastly, I think you should, when you got there, or when you get there, you should obviously celebrate your success. So wrapping up, I think it would be proper to do the conclusion. I do realize that this talk has been a lot about simplifying complexity. That is obviously a very hard thing to do, but the key takeaway should be that it all boils down to one question. Do you have the right people with the right competencies, with the right mandate to drive your PKI strategy? And if you do, I would say that you're in a very good state and the possibility for success is within reach. That was all from me, so I guess that we can move on to the Q&A session, and please fire at will if you have anything to ask.
There is a question in the chat window. What is the impact of blockchain and PKI and vice versa?
I don't have any numbers and figures to relate to. I can just say on a personal level, I've attended several conferences. Now it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I did that for maybe 3 and 4 years also, to keep myself updated on what was going on. And what I remember from these numerous conferences is that you would have a lot of talk about blockchain back then, almost no talk about PKI, and obviously I do think that has distracted the PKI industry in general, especially also the commercial parts, because I know for a fact that a lot of large organization in my region at least would turn their attention to blockchain and thus neglecting the PKI industry.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience here? Okay. Uh, so thank you, Jacob. Thanks for taking your precious time out for this presentation. So thanks to all of you. Thanks to Jacob. We'll get back to you. So as we
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
thank you.